So, hi everyone. Thank you for finding the time to join. I will spend the next 30-40 minutes telling you about the gaming ecosystem and a bit about roommate group journey, how we build the business, and what are the opportunities in this part of the gaming industry, whether you want to start your own business or whether you're considering it as a part of your career journey. So let's start with an ecosystem. That is a very simplified view developed by me. We will have a next slide that I borrowed, which is a more detailed approach, but that shows you the majority of areas that would be considered as a gaming ecosystem. So usually when people are thinking about the career in gaming, they are thinking about the content development side. And right now, content development side are like developers, which is studios and big brand names that you all heard. Then UGC, so you can start your own studio or even one-man show, creating games in Roblox or in Fortnite, or creating mods for the games that are open for that. And there is another part, which is very sizable. It's external development studios like us. Usually, the names, even of the biggest ones, are not something well known to the public or to the gamers, or sometimes to the gaming industry professionals. Because we cannot put our name on the game predominantly, though people who work with us on specific title are usually mentioned in the titles of the game. So your name as a professional will be there. The studio name might not be. However, that's another track of a career opportunity. Apart from the content development, depending on your interest and passion, you can be in publishing side, very creative, marketing, design. You can work with community, doing the conferences, working with media, creating, being an influencer as a part of it. And then everything apart from these areas, everything is concentrated on making gaming possible, even if not creating the content public, like being on the forefront, which is creating hardware, creating networking tools, and working on backend. Huge industry is creating developer tools. And AI right now is a part of it. EdTech and payments, esports, player management, so on and so forth. Apart from that, don't forget that there is another huge part of the industry that is often omitted when you're talking about gaming infrastructure, is actually traditional business infrastructure that is present in all industries. You can be a lawyer, you can be an investment banker, you can be an HR or recruitment or IT or in any other field, which is typical for majority of the industries. However, again, majority of people working in these fields in gaming are passionate about gaming, gamers themselves, and they understand how the industry works, the impact that they are bringing into creating a game is as important as an impact of those who are creating a content for the game. So putting names into boxes in a much more complex diagram that I borrowed from Lightspeed. This is how the industry looks like. This is the number of career paths, number of opportunities that you can take. If I would be looking at the industry size and number of open positions, number of roles, I would be looking on all of those companies rather than only like Activisions or Kraftons of the world. And something that all of you guys have probably seen is choosing your career. Think about your passion, but also think about what are you good at, what can bring you money, and what can bring good to others, what is actually needed. And the sweet spot is always an intersection, even if it's not the content production itself. So if you want to make a content, period, right? You want to be in this part of the industry. Once again, you can join one of the big brand name developers, external development company, or do your own games through self-publishing or UGC. There are pros and cons of joining each of those areas. Let's talk about developer big brand name studios. First of all, it's a big brand name. So having that on a UGC user-generated content. So think about Roblox and Fortnite as most common ones. So joining a big brand name developer, the title on your CV, especially if that's your first job, matters. That would definitely make the next move a bit easier. You can also, before joining, already know the title you would be working on and choose something that you are passionate about, that you are a fan yourself. The compensations in this area tend to be the highest. They was the highest, at least right now. The market is changing, so it's hard to predict how much those differences in compensation or how much differences in perks will remain. But usually that's the highest starting or growing compensation you can expect. If you would join an external developer like us, contrary to the studios that is working on one title at a time, we are working on multiple titles. In our case, because we are fairly big, we are working on dozens and dozens of titles simultaneously. That means that you can develop your skills actually faster compared to the studio when you work with one title. Today you're working on the shooter, next day you work on MOBA, different styles, different genres, different environments, because you sometimes will work directly with the client team. So you can understand the difference in production, difference in the cultures inside the studio, and so on. Usually what we see is people who work with external development studio. Let's say you are an artist. You work with external development studio for 3 years. or you work on one title with one of the studios for 3 years. People from the external development studio usually have higher skill set compared to those working in one studio, just because of the difference in pace and your exposure to different titles and different genres and different styles. So for learning and development, that's probably the best area you can be in. Now, self-publishing and user-generated content. Something that is lucrative and exciting because from the very beginning, you have your full creative freedom. You are developing a title yourself. Everything is based on your vision and your vision only. That's probably the biggest advantage of doing it. However, if you are thinking about it as a career and your main source of income, you need to understand that the risks are very, very high. Right now, if you are creating either a new game or you are creating a new studio, the biggest problem you will face is discoverability. If you go on Roblox or even on Steam, you will see that biggest share of the games that were created last year were not played enough. Biggest proportion. So that means that if you don't have a huge marketing budget, you still can create something that will be a next hit and will resonate with an audience. But the probability of that is very, very low because of the competition, because of the volume of content that is already developed. So it's always possible, but remember that it's a high risk, high reward path. If you're ready to take the risk, there might be an ideal path for you. But if you're not and you need a stable source of income, I would consider to start a career with a developer or external developer, get your experience, get maybe your savings, and then move to self-publishing or UGC if that's the goal, if that's what you're passionate about. And on that part, I will switch to, so what is the external developer part of the industry? How does it look like? Why it's in current environment might be even better area to be in compared to working directly on the developer or publisher. So gaming industry itself is huge. When I joined Roommate, that was my first experience in gaming. And I was naive, thinking that if I would compare gaming to, let's say, movie industry, probably industry is much bigger. I was surprised to learn that it's actually vice versa. The industry is huge. And for many, many years, it was growing and it was growing very fast. However, right now, the growth slowed down. So 2022 was the first year when the industry didn't grow, it actually shrunk. The expectation was that it's a 1 year only because of the overhype during COVID. In 2022, it shrunk a bit again. Now we are back on the growth track. However, we are talking about low single-digit growth per year, which is a sign of mature industry. Contrary to that, if we are talking about the service outsourcing market or external development market, it looks very different. This part of the industry is compared to grow lower double digit. And if you compare the numbers, it's 4 times higher growth. And if any industry is growing, you see it as a big number, it seems like it doesn't impact you that much. As one of my friends were saying during one of the job market crisis, yeah, there is like very few open positions, but you need only one. But at the same time, it's still a number game. And then the industry is growing, there are more open positions, and also there are more growth opportunities inside. So for someone who's starting the career, starting it in a part that is growing 3 to 4 times faster might signal a better career track compared to starting it in the part of the industry that is already very mature. So what does external development actually mean, right? So right now it's a $12 billion industry that is focused on game development, art production, post-production, player support, and audio. So basically, it's everything you need to do to make a game. The difference is that while each studio is producing the whole game, some of the external development studios are focused on a subset of services needed to produce the game. So, for example, it can be a tech studio which has an amazing team of engineers that are working, let's say, predominantly on optimization, or that are working predominantly on porting. Or it can be an art studio that has, again, an amazing team of artists and artists only that are supporting numerous titles on various production stages, being it from the blue sky concepting to the full production to doing some parts like the studios specialize and known for doing an amazing hair. There are dedicated, and there are other studios dedicated on other areas, so like focused on QA only, focused on player support, or doing audio. That that basically creates a very fragmented industry. We will talk about that a bit later. Size of the gaming. So once I tried not to react on comments, but I still do. So yeah, size of the gaming industry is 200 billions. Size of the external development industry is 12 billions. So basically, if we talk about the size of the gaming industry, we are talking about revenue, which is how many people spend money on games. So it's a B2C, which is business to consumer part that we are assessing. When we are talking about external development industry, we are assessing only the part of the industry that is developing content externally. So here on the previous slide, basically that's how much it costs to develop the content to earn. So it would cost 50 billion to develop the content that would produce 213 billion in revenue, in sales. And out of this 50 billion, which is projected for 2028, 20 billion would be spent with external development studios, and 30 billions probably would be spent internally by the game development studios themselves. If I would scroll back again to describe. So there is a publisher. Publisher is an IP owner. Publisher can either have a development studio as a part of their business, or they can sign a contract with development studio who is not part of their group or not part of their business, and either sell IP rights through licensing or have some other agreement with licensing on revenue share, so on and so forth. All right, and this developer will create a game that publisher will publish, meaning doing all the marketing and distribution. When we are talking that something is self-published, that means that you develop a game and you publish it yourself. So you distribute it yourself, let's say on Steam, and you handle the marketing yourself if you do any. External developer is a studio or a company who is providing services starting from the full game development or part of the services like art production or quality assurance or tech support. That can be anything. The difference is usually you don't get a revenue share when the title is published. You pay directly for the work you've done. So the risk-taking model for the two businesses is very different. When developer develops a game, you need to find funding. Maybe sometimes publishers are the one funding the development. Sometimes those are external investment. Sometimes it's an older studio. They had previous titles, so they have funding already. And you take the risk. So basically, you develop a game until it's finished. Then you publish it yourself or through the publisher. And the income you get is the revenue from the sales of this game. That's considered to be quite a high-risk business, especially right now with all the competition that I've mentioned. External development, again, paid directly for producing the game or producing parts of the game, usually not participating in the revenue share, so the risk is lower. You don't need that much funding. You paid basically each month or each milestone, and the creative risk is on the developer and publisher side. That's the main difference. So that's why our revenue depends not on how successful the gaming industry is in a sense, so how many copies of different games were sold this year, or how much people spent on gaming. It depends on how much content is actually being produced this year. Now I will tell a bit about Roommate and our journey, and then I will go back to pros and cons of starting an external development business right now or thinking about career in external development business specifically. So we are around for quite some time. We started back in 2011. We worked on literally hundreds of titles. Some of them that we can tell about, you can see on the screens. And we actually started as a game development company. back in 2011, the company was started by very, very young team in their early 20s with basically zero experience and zero connections, an inability to ask for advice or have a mentor at that time. And once again, it's 2011, so everything back at the time, everything will be mobile. Mobile was on the rise. So the team actually developed 3 games, and developed and published. 2 of them were reasonably successful, but like we didn't create something similar to the Candy Crush, so something that can generate you revenue for years. And that's why searching for a way to stay in games, because that's where the passion was, but at the same time being confident that we can pay salaries next month. And that's how the work for hire business or external development business was started. At that point in time, so up to 2000, like in 2014, we were like 30 people, focused on mobile game development, doing art and tech for mobile games, like very casual mobile games. In 2016, 2018, we started to grow and expand our services. We understood that there is actually a big demand for that. The industry was growing and there was lack of talented, experienced people, and we kind of knew how to find them, how to grow them, or how to educate them. And that's how we started to expand into PC console development, now doing game not only in Unity but also in Unreal Engine, doing games for Xbox, PlayStation, or even for Switch. We were growing steadily till 2020, 2021 with as everyone with a COVID and with COVID boost, we kind of grew much faster than we expected. And also before 2020, we were very much working from the office only team. COVID hit and we switched, like at that point in time in 2020, we were 350 people. And we switched to complete remote work over the weekend. Fast forward several years, we are right now more than 1,000 people scattered across the globe, working for more than 1,000 projects throughout our history with more than 500 clients. And we have team members from Ukraine, where we started, now to Brazil, to Spain, to Canada, to the UK. And this year we are thinking about opening an office in Malaysia. So we grew drastically. It came with its own challenges, but that's also created lots of opportunities for growth and development for the people inside, because the fundamental force to create an exdev studio is actually very similar to the fundamental forces and passions to create your own game development studio. We love making games. We want to have stability and long-term impact, not only for the players, but for our teams as well. And we want to learn from our strengths. That's how we started exdev, and that's how we grew in exdev. So what does it mean, like working for someone like us? And we are on the bigger size of the spectrum with more than 1,000 people. But for comparison, the industry leader, Keyword Studio, is the biggest external development studio globally. They are saying a team of 13,000 people. They are by far the leader. They are times bigger than everyone else. So they are kind of a phenomenon. There are lots of studios who are 30, 50 people, and they're very stable, and they are in the industry for years and sometimes dozens of years. So there are different structures and different sizes. But if you work for someone who is on the bigger side of the spectrum, there are two structures that you can be in, right? The structures that we have. So when you join the team, first of all, you join the team depending on your field and your skill set. So you are joining an art team or technology team or QA team or trailers and cinematics team. You will be assigned on the project. Some of them are very, very long-term project, and you can be on the one project, let's say, for a year or longer. But if you want to switch, you need to, and have more experience with different titles, you need to talk to your team. But potentially you can switch the projects quite often. And you would be working, let's say, if you are in the art team, for some time, let's say, on purely on art projects. So we are supporting of one of our clients with art services only. Or you can be assigned on the project where we are doing a full game or a full level or a DLC. So you will be working with the team members from different verticals, which is technology or QA or trailers and cinematics on one project together with our client, who would be providing a creative vision or who would be working on a day-to-day with you as a one team, depending on the project. So that means that compared to the studio, which where you are all one team, all the disciplines working on one game, as I said, you have more opportunities to learn because you switch environments and you switch titles and genres. At the same time, you have let's assume you're in art. You have a huge team compared to any individual studio working in one genre, focused on art. And that means that the training you would get is top-notch. The assessments and the guidance that you would get would be top-notch just because we have scale and we specialize on that for many, many years. So for you as a learning and growth environment, that could be a much more beneficial approach. The difference, like again, choosing career paths, the difference would be if you have a desire to work on a specific title for a specific company you're passionate about, and so on and so forth. That's not something that external development company would be able to guarantee you. if you want to work on this specific title, probably the best approach would be to go to the studio that is directly developing the specific title. If you are interested in learning and developing your skills, probably here the context and the opportunity pool would be much broader. So if you are someone who is thinking about working in exdev, not necessarily as a part of the team, but starting your own studio, right? There are several things you need to be aware of. First of all, you need to track your financials rigorously. Your risks are generally lower compared to developer or publisher. However, your reward is also limited. That means that you need to balance your balance sheet from the very beginning. Because even if the title would be a measure hit, your participation in the revenue share would be minimal or non-existent. Second of all, there are many companies always saying that people is our biggest asset. But it's not always so. Like your assets can be like your IP rights, right? Or anything else. In our business, that's actually the truth. That's the only asset that we have. So recruitment and HR should be one of your key strengths. Production management is critical. You need to deliver services on time and on quality. You cannot do a compromise. Your client can do a compromise, but unfortunately, you cannot. Or fortunately, because that's a disciplines and you strive for excellence. As you grow in size, if that's something you want to do, and your offering is growing, you need to invest more effort ensuring that your team can work cohesively. As in our example, we have a roommate group culture, but we also have different microcultures inside, like art culture or code of culture. All the team cultures are a bit different. On top of that, we operate in different geographies, which is a difference in time zone and also some differences in culture as well. So you need to make sure that as soon as you assemble the team for the project from your different skills, from the different skill sets and different countries and different time zones, they can work together as a team. And the part that is true for any service business, and in this case, it is a service business, you need to understand your client. Don't forget that your client is not only the player, it's also the company you work with, for whom you are developing this title. You need to understand and actually solve their problems. So, couple of words on like where the state of the gaming industry, and once again, like what you need to assess starting a career and or starting external development business. So right now we are in the period of turbulence. We were discussing before the call with Jan. There is an amazing analysis done by Matthew Ball. You can use the link on the screen. It's quite a long read, but it's amazingly interesting. So the turbulence is here. There are some emerging opportunities, but at the same time, it's a maturing industry, to win in which you need to be a top-notch player. The market for someone who is creating their own business is also changing. That would mean more competition, but also more opportunities for external development. So there is a thought which I share, that external development industry, the gaming industry, would be getting more and more similar to the movie industry, where there will be a set of companies that are focused on IP management and strategy, but also looking to diversify the risk when it comes to the development of the new title based on the IPs that they own. And that means that they will use more and more external development companies, because for them, it's a way to manage the costs, manage the risk, and focus on something that they excel at, which is IP strategy and management, rather than development itself. So despite all the changes and growing competition for external development, current industry changes might present actually an opportunity for growth. So to be successful in today's market, and it doesn't matter whether you're a company or you are an individual building your own career, that the principle stays. Deliver high quality work in a cost efficient way. I saw some comments about like the fact that if you're doing work for hire, like external development, you have a competition from other parts of the world where the costs probably are lower. But we were running an industry survey this year, and none of our clients were willing, though costs were very important for them, none of them were willing to compromise the quality to produce at a lower cost. What they want is having the top-notch quality, ideally with a lower cost. And that means that if you are someone doing high-quality services, your competition would be around other studios who are able to do high-quality services, not necessarily the lowest possible cost services. Stay ahead by embracing emerging technologies relevant for any company in any field. However, for gaming right now is more relevant than for others. I think we are kind of in a perfect storm, because there was an economic decline, and at the same time that were gaming specific market decline after the COVID. And at the same time, during the COVID, cost grew drastically. And the technologies that are emerging has the biggest impact on the gaming and movie industries compared right now to many others. So we are kind of in a perfect storm. And if back in 2023, I would say, when I was visiting the conferences, people were talking about temporary turbulence, and yeah, the AI technologies might be interesting, but we would not be implementing. We are doing high quality stuff. We are working on AAA titles. We don't see how AI technologies will help us in the nearest future. Plus, we think that it's not something that our players will appreciate. At the same time, back this March when GDC was happening, which is one of the biggest gaming conference globally, even AAA studios were saying we are looking to implement AI. If you know how we can reduce the cost with AI, we are ready to embrace it. And that's a huge shift. That means that it's something that will be expected. And for us internally, we have people in the team who are ready to try and implement. And there are other people who would say, I don't see a value for now, and I want to keep it as it is. Unfortunately, in the nearest future, next maybe 3, maybe 5 years, you would not be able to keep it as it is. You would need to add AI. But AI is not a replacement of the human, as we all see right now. But that's a change and the huge productivity improvement that can be added into production pipeline. And with technology evolving, it will be added in the production pipeline. And as usual, build meaningful long-term relationships. Relevant for any industry. However, for gaming, sometimes more so than to others, especially if you are the part of the industry that is doing actually content production. If you are part of if you are in a part of the industry that is doing new tools for developers, right? You have something that you can present as a product, and people need to test the product, and if it's good, they will implement that. However, if you are doing the content or you're doing services like we do, that's a matter of trust more than anything else, because you don't have a product to present. You would be building a product, but your client depends on that. They need to trust that you will build it again at quality and at cost. Because a part of trust, there is not that many proofs that you will do it that you can present. So relationships and common work is the way to build that trust. So for gaming, that the part that is doing content production, it's even more relevant than for other parts of the gaming industry or for some other industries overall. So talking about business opportunities, as I said, I would be finishing. I know I'm a bit out of time. Exdev market is still very fragmented, and there are lots of very small studios. So you can be the person building the next one. If you decide to do that as of today, and if you're just starting, it makes sense to specialize on something. So you specialize, let's say, on one engine or on one art style, depending on which skill set you want to focus on, or on one genre. So there is a different ways to find the niche, genre-based, tool-based, skill set-based. But if you're just started, it's better to find the niche. And if you are from the UK, there are unique advantages in Europe, in the UK. Native English speakers, time zones, mature ecosystem. That will go to the Nordics as well, but you would need to rely, when you are starting, you would need to rely partially on the government support. But the ecosystem is strong in Nordics and in the UK. In the rest of the Europe, it's also possible, can be a bit more challenging. So a bit of the positivity given the current market turbulence. It's a huge industry. There are multiple roles and multiple opportunities, and there is a place for talented people. There will be always a place for talented people. And my advice would be open-minded in terms of which company you join. Look at what you love to do, look where you can grow your career, and what is important for you in terms of the industry, field, part of the industry, or the title you would be working on. The industry is huge, and there will be an opportunity always for talented people. So thanks, everyone. I'm sorry for being a bit out of time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Anna, for a wonderful presentation. This was very timely and relevant for every one of us here. So, Lucia, do we have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's go ahead.
All right. For example, the first one was asking the very beginning if there is a theme for each title. Is there a theme for each?
So, yes. However, the projects can be very different, and some of the project would be long term, like several years, and some would be very short term. So there will be a team assigned, but this team would be assigned to this title, to this project for 1 month, let's say, or for 2 months. And then let's say we have another project with the same title. Not necessarily it would be the same team. It would depend on what the client needs this time. Is the same team would be the best fit or not?
All right, thank you. Next question is, could you explain how external development works? Like, does it mean like freelance work outside some company, or what is it?
No, it's so it depends. Like being a freelance is also a career opportunity, and I forgot to add it on the slide. But if you're talking about external development studio, it works pretty much in a way as a development studio works. So you have your long-term contract with the studio. You have the same benefits as you work with other studios. So for you, the difference is you are not working usually on the one title. You work for different titles, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily like a freelance work or short-term contract work. It's pretty much the same approaches apply in terms of types of collaboration for development studios and for external development studios.
Yeah, thank you. At the moment, we're waiting for people to type out their questions, and a lot of people says thank you for your presentation.
Yes, all right. Thanks, Anna. We're waiting for questions, and we won't finish yet because people are thinking what to ask. But so I've worked in the IT services in a very big IT service company in Finland many years. It was a similar philosophy, the idea that, for instance, banks, they outsourced 1,000 developers from us. So my question is, do you ever do co-ventures with your client? Because that's what our business model was.
We do sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
When you say co-ventures, you refer to the risk and revenue share, or what?
So the model was to imagine that you're a bank, so your core business is banking.
Okay.
But they didn't want to run the systems, the banking systems. So they outsourced the whole banking systems to us. We had all the Finnish all the Finnish banks were our, and the government and all these authorities were our customers. So what happened is that we set up a company that the bank owns 60% and we own 40%. So whatever happened, it wasn't a revenue share. They actually paid for the services, but if there would be profit, there used to be actually non-profit collaborations. It would be according to the ownership.
Now, we don't do that usually with our clients. However, we are now considering doing several ventures with different external development studios and also with technology providers. With the clients, usually it's a contract rather than joint venture.
All right, okay, so that's what the model is in the gaming. Now, also what I really liked is the idea of diversifying the skills and knowledge. So in our system, it was exactly what you said, and we had that a person could have a faster career development with us than working for the bank itself, because they could jump from one client to another client. Exactly what you were said. It was easy to find a diversity in the job role, and by the way, when we had issues, so layoffs, some people could have been moved from one entity to another entity, because in some other place there was more demand and then they had actually resources. So this I like. So I know really quite well that model. I know that way, and I also like the idea. This is for the youngsters to understand. I think you said it really well, that this kind of model for them starting the career might be actually better than trying to apply for directly to one game studio and take a role there. However, you know how many people think that it's worth of taking that risk and then fail a few times. We are recording at the moment, so I won't say any brand names of that kind, but because so Finnish industry is based on self-publishing. It used to be developing with the publisher, but now most of the companies, they want to do self-publishing, or they have been acquired by a bigger studio, and they're still developing their companies. But I'm aware of the demand of some of the companies, the studios there. They want to outsource everything they can and just focus on the game concept and what you actually said, to run the fan base and the advertisement and all that. So that's this is really. I was surprised also that there's so many people working in the outsourcing. The billions that you mentioned there, that it's such a huge business.
Yeah, I think I was when I joined, I was surprised as well by the numbers. But yeah, it is a huge part of the industry, and you're right. Like back in like 4 years ago, let's say 5 years ago, the model that you've described, where there is a team who is small, they don't plan to grow, and they want to rely on external development. Like this model 5 years ago was almost non-existent. today, those who are just starting, lots of them, so they're creating a new studio, they have funding, they have stability, but lots of them prefer to actually rely on external development rather than growing their own team, especially after because of the turbulence of the previous 2 years. And part of it, and I saw the question someone was asking about the engines, I think that unification of the engines was definitely a part of it. Because right now, those who are just starting the new studio, very rarely people are thinking like we would do a proprietary engine. They're choosing either Unreal Engine or Unity, depending on the platform, and answering the question. If you are doing a more complex title, that would be definitely Unreal Engine. And if you are doing something on the more casual side, for mobile, you can still consider Unity.
Yeah, and Unreal originally was a game, actually. And if you remember, there was like an engine wars. There was a moment that every studio wanted to develop an engine of their game. It was it wasn't funny, actually, but there was a serious business, people wanted to. So only few of them survived, obviously. So I think we have more questions.
Yeah, now we have some. Okay, so next question is, how does an exdev secure publishers or partners to work with? Is there a roadmap to follow to be able to do this?
How the exdevs secure the publisher to work with?
Yes.
So it's not our client is not always a publisher. It can be either a publisher or the developers that want to outsource part of the work that we've discussed just now with Jan. In terms of how to secure, is there a roadmap? I don't. There is no one size fits all. It's as usual, right? But the best chance would be to start with networking and identify if there is a need in one of the studios that you right now know how to fulfill, and start with that. Build your own portfolio based on that first project and so on, and ideally ask the studio if they like what you did, ask for further introduction.
Right.
On top of that, there is always good to do some marketing, lead generation, so on and so forth. But right now, that probably would be a longer shot compared to the direct approach.
Okay, thank you. Next one is, does Room 8 group have internships or something similar? I used to study for IT engineering while also working for an IT company, and that was a great way to learn and earn at the same time.
Mm-hmm. We are doing internships. So back in 2020, we were struggling, as I said, internally with external development studio, you can learn faster. And that's why we were struggling to hire people for kind of junior level positions, but when some experience is expected, because when we were doing the testing based on our internal classification, someone we would consider junior might already have 2 years of experience and have a title of middle. So that's how we decided to run the internships. We were doing one for 3D photorealistic environment artist. We were taking people with some very limited practical experience, and it was a crash course for 8 weeks. And if you passed the course, then you were entering the company at the like junior -1, like intern level, with promotion in 6 months and in a year. And we were also doing Unreal Engine developer and rendering engineer internships. Those were structured differently. So we were taking people without any experience, practical, but with theoretical knowledge of C++. And that was a 6 months internship. But like it's a part-time thing, so you can study at the university and also do the internship. So it was a part-time thing with the same logic. If you successfully passed it, you could join the company at the intern level with promotion in a year.
All right, thank you. Next one is, I'd like to know more about IP management as part of a business model. Would you have any suggestions of companies or readings I could look into for examples and further information?
I would be struggling with that because that's not something we do because we don't own the IP. So if you are interested in IP management specifically, usually it's part of the legal field, like how the IP rights are acquired, distributed, how the licensing agreements are structured. If you are interested in the part of, I want to be a creative director or a marketing director, and I want to be in charge of this IP, and I want to think, how to further develop this IP, I'm thinking about, like whether we should do a movie based on the game or vice versa, which with whom to collaborate, so on and so forth. The best would be the marketing materials and marketing books. But that's not my field of study, so I don't think I can give a valuable advice here. For the game developers, usually it's if you don't own, you either create your own IP if you want to develop and publish the game, and then you just need to fix kind of the legal part that you have everything properly registered and no one else can basically take it from you. Or you could make a licensing deal with an IP owner. So if you want to develop a game based on the well-known IP, then you need to find out who owns that IP, talk to them. They usually have a BD team and licensing managers, and you will present them the idea. I want to develop a game based on your piece. This is the idea behind. This is how it will look like. This is the target audience. If they say, okay, that's something that would be beneficial for our core business growth, let's say, we will do a licensing deal for you, which means they will allow you to use the IP, but you will do a revenue share with them. And depending on the strength of the IP, that could be up to 15% of revenue.
Okay, thank you. Next one is, how are you dealing with AI-generated content?
So we because we are an external developer, we need to be very cautious with that. So if we use AI in our pipeline of the development, we need to agree with client on that. So only with client approval, we can use AI for the production. So we are testing internally, we are testing different AI tools. We are showing, so for this type of art assets, let's say, you can use this tool as a part of the pipeline. The results will be consistent and so on and so forth. And that means that you can get 15% of productivity, let's say. If clients say, oh, yeah, that's what I need, we would do it with AI. If they said, no, that's not worth the risk, or internally, we're still figuring out whether we can use AI or not, we would not use AI. Otherwise, it would be a breach of contract.
Okay, thank you. If you could give just one piece of advice about what someone should study if they want to work in the game industry, what would it be?
It's a tricky one because as we were looking at this diagram, it heavily depends on which area of this ecosystem you want to be in. You can study technology and do the next tool for games like next Blender, let's say, or you can be an engineer doing backend. So that's depends on what you want. If you want to produce the content, I would advise to take something that is specialized. So the degree that is designed for the game developers, like we are discussing here right now. Now there are such possibilities right now.
Thanks.
So I would. Sorry.
No, you carry on. I'll comment.
No, that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Anna, for saying it. I wanted to tell everyone that why do you think, that's why IVGC, we provide a quite broad offering of content to study so that you understand that games is more than just programming.
Yeah, I mean, when I was studying, like there was nothing specific for games. Even if you were the game, like the engineer, right? There was nothing specific. Right now, if you know that you want to be in gaming, you can, and you still want to be an engineer. That's where your strengths are. You could probably find a course, or you can find even a formal degree that would be designed for that. You have just higher chances to get practical knowledge. That would be very important.
Okay, thank you. Next up is how do the developers or publishers who want to outsource look for the right candidate? Does it simply come down to visibility? Is it basically better to be an external developer studio, meaning a company having different services, etc., art or audio, than any individual artist who can take a contract or freelance?
That's a tricky one. I think that depends on the client. So if the client is an individual or an indie studio, they would be rather looking for freelancers, and then they will look at your profile and the feedback that you've got or your portfolio, and they will contact you directly. If we're talking about the bigger studio, let's say they will be doing AAA titles that cost like literally hundreds of millions of dollars to produce, probably they're looking for a bigger team. And they're also a bigger company themselves. So they need someone with whom they can sign a proper contract, go through the proper invoicing processes, so on and so forth. They would be, and who can also provide the needed scale. So they would be looking for a professional external development studio. In terms of how would they be choosing the one, depends on what kind of portfolio you have, the pricing, the network and trust you built with them. So it's on case by case basis. But in general, bigger studio would usually collaborate with external development studios. If they would collaborate with someone individually freelance basis, they probably would be something very senior in their career, whom they look for specifically with a unique skill set or unique vision and recognition.
All right, thank you. And last written question is, why do you think AAA games have been and are nowadays so much about realistic or unreal graphics? I understand the pushing of the limits of hardware and everything, but like someone above said, this sheer size of the game is getting ridiculous. For me, the main core idea of a game has always come first. There are several, if some retro games, for example.
There are many people in the industry discussing that, and that goes back again to the Matthew Ball presentation. It's a vicious circle because let's say you create a new Diablo, that means that you have an audience with a certain expectation. You need still to create a new iteration. You need to add something. It's a AAA game. Then as soon as you say that it's a AAA game and that there is a certain price tag put on it, your gamers have the expectation of the certain volume of the content and certain time of the gameplay. So if you reduce that, they would be unhappy, even though you're right, majority of the players would not finish the game and would do like only 30%. So it's a vicious circle when the whole industry right now is searching for the way to make the business model for AA, AAA studios and titles to work again. Because the price is stagnant for many, many years. Development costs skyrocketed. And now the number of copies sold is not growing as it was growing before. So that creates an economic problem for the industry. And part of it is let's do shorter version with a different price tag, or let's try to increase the price and so on. Same goes to like focusing on the hyper realistic 3D environments. It's the same. You need to show the improvement from title to title. You need to outperform the expectation. But that's also, increase the cost drastically. But you are afraid that if you don't do that, people will be disappointed and you will sell even less copies. So your financial results would be worse. So yeah, that's something everyone are trying to unpuzzle.
It's like optimization, the scoping of the game development. So all right, thank you. I have one very last question. You might have said it, but I'm not sure. Where does the name Room 8 Group come from?
Oh, that's I wish I could tell a good story about it, but unfortunately, being completely honest, we don't have a legend behind.
Okay.
The people were like the team was brainstorming the names, looking also what is taking, what is not, and come up with the idea. Despite we were not in the roommate.
You were or you were not?
Despite we were not like occupying some room with number 8.
That came to my mind immediately. It must have been. Okay, very, very good. Okay, so we are, so Lutza, we are going to stop recording now.